Here is grade 10 unit 1 actual lesson, which is about organization of files. Every unit has a unit outcome. At the end of this unit, learners will be able to explain the file management system. At the second point, learners analyze extension of file types. At the third point, learners summarize file formats. And at the last, learners convert a file into different formats. What the unit overview here. Dear students, in grade 9, we learned about file management and related concepts such as file folders, file drivers, methods of file creation, naming and renaming files and folders, and ways of accessing drives. It's obvious in previous grade, the students have a chance to learn about knowing a file. What a file? It is a collection of data stored in one unit and identified by a name. A file can be a picture, a file can be audio, video, and in another format. And when you say folder, it is a container of a file, any file. And the drivers are softwares that enables to communicate computers with other peripheral devices like printers. Printer can communicate with the computer device by using a driver software, and it's possible to change soft copy into hard copy. There are methods of file creation. There are software programs enables to create files. Text-based files are created using Notepad. MS Paint helps us to create pictures. MS PowerPoint helps us to create presentation files, and the same to others. It's possible to give a name when we create a file. It should have a file have its own name, and it is possible to rename. After giving a specific name, it is possible to change the name. Not only files, it's possible to change the name of folders. And how accessing drivers. How can we explore drivers? Using File Explorer, it is the best way to control or to manage our computer systems easily. Therefore, it is advisable to use Window plus letter E, that helps us to display Window Explorer, or on the taskbar below the desktop there is a Window Explorer. It's possible to start Window Explorer, and by searching on the start menu helps to display File Explorer. By typing only the letter Fi or by typing only EX, it's possible to display File Explorer, and we can control the computer easily. Therefore, these were the previous grade lessons, but here as a revision, and the students should remind themselves. In this unit, you are going to learn essays, advanced concepts of file management such as file types, extensions, drivers, and paths. You will also learn about methods of file conversion, saving and deleting files, file backup and recovery, storage drive, and mechanisms of file importing and exporting. There are ways to create files. Software programs help us to create files. When we use software programs to create files, they have their own formats or extensions. What it seems these extensions? We'll see together. Drivers. There are computer drivers. A computer storage drive or any file relies on computer storage drive, which is a hard disk. Drivers can be also external storage drives like CD, DVD, optical disks, and removable disks like flash disks are considered as drives. And there is also drivers. What the difference between drive and drivers? We'll see together. In case of drivers, there are softwares that help us to communicate with computer with peripheral devices, and a drive is hardware. You will also learn about methods of file conversion. There are softwares that help us to convert one file format to another. How can we convert? You'll see saving and deleting files, file backup and recovery, storage drive and mechanisms of file importing and exporting. We'll see together. It's possible to back up our files. After backupping, we perform an operation recovery. How can we perform a file backup? How can we perform an operation recovery? Put in us a lesson. Therefore, we'll see together. Under 1 today, there is about file management. Brainstorming questions. How are files handled at your home? Can you describe ways of managing files in school or other organizations? That they are put as brainstorming questions. You have to think for yourself. Before the introduction of automation systems, schools and other societies used to manage and organize their sensitive data in traditional file systems such as filing cabinets. Soviets. Before the introduction of today's modern generation electronic systems, thanks to the technology, people use paper-based working systems. They put their files using file filing cabinets. Think about the schools, think about the organizations, the societies. In the absence of digital systems, it may be difficult to proceed everything. It takes time. It's so expensive in terms of materials. It can take also manpower. It needs manpower. Such systems are so traditional and complicated to access files. Here are organizational files. In the traditional way of working systems, people in societies or in work offices, they use filing cabinets to store their tax-based informations or data, investments or letters are put in filing cabinets. Compare with today's modern era. Thanks to the technology, says nowadays, to recognize file management, you need to understand how your computer stores information. There is a computer storage drive that helps us to store information. Not only to create, it helps us to store information. After storing, possible to modify or edit or to manipulate easily. Compare with that of traditional working systems. Is that possible to modify or edit after creating a specified information that is put in paper? If we have made a mistake, we should have replaced the whole document. Think about the modern era. You can replace letters by letters, words by words, statements, or other documents also. You can modify it thanks to the technology. A file is a command storage unit in computer, and all programs and data are written into and read from the file. There is a command storage drive in a computer system. Every computer programs, again, the data that we create are written and read from the file. The storage drive helps us to read, to write, and to read. Computers store information in files which are also organized and grouped in folders and stored on disks, not in big drawers. When we compare with traditional working systems in modern era, computers store information in files which are also organized and grouped in folders and stored on disks, not in big drawers. Think about traditional working systems. The upper figure 1.1, filing cabinets. In traditional working systems, they use big drawers, but not here in computers. Computers rely on hard disk. Rather than putting in big drawers, computers rely on hard disk or drivers, which is HDDs, to store data permanently. It can store data permanently until you will delete it. If the user or the system admin until deleted the system files or personal files, they should be stored permanently. But in case of random access memory RAM, it stores our information temporarily. When we create any file using software program, they are stored temporarily under RAM. But when we save it, we are changing into hard disk. We are transferring into hard disk. That it stores data permanently. They are storage devices used to save and retrieve digital information that will be required for future reference. These drives, storage devices, use that for future use also. We can view after storing a personal information or a digital information. We can edit, we can print out also. A disk drive is a technology that enables the reading, writing, deleting, and modifying of data on a computer storage disk. When you say disk drive, for instance, a hard disk drive enables us the reading, writing, deleting, and modifying of data on a computer storage disk. The same to flash disk or other disks. It is either a built-in, in case of hard disk, it is a built-in or external component of disk that manage the disk input-output operations. In case of hard disk, it is a built-in, means it comes with the computer system. When we purchase any computer system, it's not necessarily hard disk. It is a built-in. In case of external disks like CD, DVD, and flash disk are plugged and used additionally. The most common type of disk drive is hard disk drive. The most common type of disk drive is hard disk drive, which is HDD. And the terms disk drive and hard disk drive are typically used interchangeably. Other types of hard disk include optical drives, storage devices, and floppy drives. They are external storage drives. They are disk drives. For instance, the optical drives like CD, compact disk, it can store 700 megabytes. And in case of DVD, as other optical drive, that helps us to store information about 4.2 gigabytes. And the difference between the two is its storage capacity. In case of CD, it can store 700 megabytes. In case of the optical storage drives, DVD, it can store 4.2 GB. And when it comes to floppy drives, in case of floppy disk, the floppy disk helps us, the floppy drive helps us to read and write the floppy disks. The floppy disks can store 1.44 megabytes. When you think about the storage capacity, it is the least that nowadays it's rare to use. It can store only picture-based files. It cannot store a single audio file. Here are activity 1.1. Complete the following activities in a group. Discuss the major types and functions of file management. What are the major types of function of file management? Try to think. Try to remember what you learned in grade 9, unit 1, and explain the types of file folders and subfolders. Compare and contrast disk and drivers. Brief explain why file management is so important. In case of, let me remind you the third question, compare and contrast disks and drives, for instance. The optical CD disk drive, the optical drive helps us to read CD disks and DVD disks. In case of drives, helps us to read the CD and DVD disks. The CD and DVD are disks. The optical drive helps us to read this CD and DVD. Here is a picture disk drives, which is a computer command disk drive, which is a hard disk. For instance, tax-based files, investment-based letters, they are stored under hard disk, not in big drawers. In figure 1.1, there is a file cabinet. that stores taxes, investments, or later documents. In case of computers, they are stored under computer stores in disks, not in big drawers. A folder holds one or more files, and it can be empty until it is filled. When you create for the first time, it says empty. When you open it in folder after you create it, it is empty. It says the folder is empty. You should, or you can put the files under a folder. A folder can also contain other folders, and there can be many levels of folders within folders. It's possible to put many folders with other folders. Files are normally organized into directories in schools and other organizations. Usually locate and use them. Yes, of course. Files can be organized and located easily if we use folders. If you remember from grade 9 lesson, there is an importance of a folder. The first importance is to organize our files. The second importance is to locate our files easily. And the other importance helps us to create files having the same name on the same place, on the same drive. When multiple users have access to files, it may be described to control by whom and in what ways the file may be accessed. Therefore, we should create a folder and we should put our files under a folder. We have to manage, we have to organize our files well. Therefore, file management is defined as the process of organizing and keeping track of files and folders, helping you stay organized. So, information is easily located. When we manage our files, we are on the way organizing our files easily. How can we organize our files? By creating and by putting the files under a directory or folder. Here are key concepts. File management is the process of and acts of creating an organized structure in which you store information for easy retrieval. Possible to retrieve and locate our file easily if we manage our files. Means if we organize our files. The best way is creating a folder and putting the files under that folder. Files are stored under a folder. Folders and files are stored under disk drives. Folder or directory, when we say folder or directory, they are synonym words. In graphical user interface, we say it folder. And in case of the command line interface technology that uses keyboard, when you create a container using command prompt, we call it a directory. It is a virtual storage space used to store and organize computer files. What about a disk drive? It is a technology that enables the reading, writing, deleting, and modifying of data in a computer storage disk. For today, it's enough. Thank you for listening. Try to support me by subscribing the channel. Thanks a lot.